Hello everyone, it's Brian with you in Toronto. Now you may remember, I think it was 3 months ago or maybe longer, that Rob Walker posted a video in honor of the fact that he had posted 200 videos on his channel. And he did this video where he showed 30 12-inch singles from Manchester bands or artists and whatnot. And at the end, he threw it open if anybody wanted to take part. And at the time, I couldn't because we were traveling around and it was hard for me. But now, I look back at my notes and I have chosen 30 12-inch singles. However, they're not from Manchester area bands. These are non-Manchester area bands. Unless I've made a mistake, there shouldn't be any Manchester bands here. But if I've made a mistake, I'm sure someone will tell me. So I will say that I've done other videos on 12-inch singles. I did 6 videos covering some of my favorite ones. So that covered maybe 30 to 35 12-inch singles. And I've shown all of my Smiths 12-inch singles and all of my OMG 12-inch singles. So I've looked back and I don't believe I've ever shown these particular ones before. I may have shown something from the band, but not this particular one. So that's all I'm going to say. I mean, I should also say I do have some more recent finds coming up, but that'll be, I don't know when I'll do that. But let's get going with these. There's 30, so it's going to take a while. And let's start with the Abecedarians. There's the title, the band name there. This is a 12-inch single for a track called Smiling Monarchs, one of my absolute favorite tracks from the 80s. This came out in 1985. You can see the tracks listed there. So we have Smiling Monarchs plus Ben Way's Carnival. For years, I was under the misapprehension that the Abecedarians were a UK band, partly because of the sound, partly because it's on Factory Records, which always makes me think of UK bands, and partly because the Smiling Monarchs track was mixed and produced by Bernard Sumner of New Order. So I just assumed, although that image could be anywhere, I guess, where there's water. So here we have Smiling Monarchs and Ben Way's Carnival on side B. And as I say, it is a terrific track. If you like 80s New Wave, you're going to like that track if you haven't heard. Really cool track. From 1986, we have this track from Nitzer Ebb called Murderous. I've heard it called Nitzer Ebb and Nitzer Ebb. I'm not sure which is correct. This has, side A has Murderous, side B has Fitness to Purpose and Murderous Repetition. So it's pretty cool. And let's see, there's Murderous. How long is it? Doesn't say. The labels look the same. That's a fantastic high energy track that'll, get you on the dance floor, get you moving. I think they're from Chelmsford. I think that's what I recall. Third one I've chosen is one of my favorite bands of all time, Killing Joke. This is the 12-inch single for Let's All Go to the Fire Dances from the album of the same name. There are 3 tracks on here. This is from 1983, and they're from Notting Hill, I think. So we have side A, Let's All Go to the Fire Dances, a live version of The Fall of Because, and side B is Dominator version, and there they are with Jazz Coleman. I think I have most of the, well, I shouldn't say, I should check, but I have many of the Killing Joke 1980s 12-inch singles. There's a bit of dust on this. There we go. There's some fabulous guitar work on this track, as is true for many of the early, or most of the early Killing Joke tracks. Well, all the Killing Joke tracks, let's be honest. From 1987, taken from the album Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, The Cure with Catch. So there's 4 tracks in here. We have Catch and Breathe on side A. And side B has live versions of Kyoto Song and A Night Like This, taken from, as it says here, the motion picture The Cure in Orange, which I have never seen. It was released on VHS, I believe. I have never seen that. I should see if it's on YouTube or if it's not, I don't know. They're from West Sussex, I guess. Which is side A, this one. Side B, also with a bit of dust, but we can live with that. Next, a band called the Lotus Eaters. There is also bands, there's other bands with this name except without the. There's two bands called Lotus Eaters, and one's a heavy metal band. I think the other one's maybe a folky band. This is for the track It Hurts. And they're from Liverpool, sort of new wave outfit. You can sort of see the back there. This came out in 1985. It's a sad song, let's be honest. They're probably better known for the track "The First Picture of You," right? I think I got that right. And yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Oh, I have to put these all away too, which is kind of irritating. Now, from 1987, I'm going to keep saying that, one of my favorite bands. This is The with Sweet Bird of Truth, which is taken from the band's second album called Infected. Now, you could say, is it really the band's second record? Because Soul Mining was first, this was Infected was second, but Matt Johnson's solo record Burning Blue Soul was released under his own name, but years later it was re-released under the moniker. I have it on CD, but I have the vinyl on under his own name. So yeah, technically their second record. So Sweet Bird of Truth, great track. Infected is a great album, let's be honest. These guys are from London. I think I've mentioned them before. Kind of a strange name. I know people have had problems with his name. It is a difficult band to search for on Amazon, for example, because, you know, it's hard to find it. So, yeah, really cool. There's two tracks from the Night Watchman, themes from the Night Watchman, Harbor Lights, and Sleeping Juice. So, anyway, that's fantastic. Moving on to an iteration of Echo and the Bunnymen that was a weird one because Ian McCulloch left the band and the band soldiered on without him, and then he rejoined them later on. But this is Enlighten Me. This came out in 1990. This album, the album that this came from, got fairly negative reviews. I've never heard it. This is the only track I know. This is a fantastic track, though. But it doesn't really sound like, well, it does sort of sound like Echo and the Bunnymen. The voice is quite different. It's Noel Burke singing. So I love the track, but I guess I should track down the album at some point. So it has Enlighten Me, the extended remix on side 1. Side 2 has Enlighten Me and Lady Don't Fall Backwards. So, yeah. On the same Korova label as the other Echo and the Bunnymen tracks. So pretty cool though. This is from I'll think of it in a minute. Anyway, this is EMF. Unbelievable. They're from 1990. Their first, I guess it was their first single, and later showed up on their first record, Schubert Dip, I think. This is an import, of course. So on side 1, we have Unbelievable, the Sin City Sex Mix. And then side 2 has Unbelievable, and then a track called EMF Live at the Bilson. So that's pretty cool. I think everybody knows this track. It was a huge, well, certainly here it was a huge hit. You couldn't go a day without hearing it on some radio station or another. It was all over the place. So the debut single. Now here is a side project or a subsequent project from some people in Bauhaus called Tones on Tail. So Daniel Ash and Kevin Haskins formed this band with Glenn Campling, who wasn't in Bauhaus, and then Kevin Haskins and Daniel Ash got together with David J. later for another project, but this is a 12-inch single from 1984 for the track Performance. Yeah, so Daniel Ash, Glenn Campling, and Kevin Haskins, written right on the back. Beggars Banquet. And on here we have, if I can get it out of here, Performance on Beggars Banquet here on side A, and side B has Shakes. Very cool. I loved what they did. It was quite a departure in sound from Bauhaus, but really cool. And of course, the big track from them was Go, which again got tons of airplay. It was played a lot around clubs I used to go to when I was much younger. Next, a track that originally came out in 1979 from Cabaret Voltaire, a kind of proto-industrial band. So 1979, they released a version of this track. Well, they released Nag Nag Nag. It had a different B-side. This is the 2002 reissue, which on side B, they just have a different version of Nag Nag Nag. So good luck reading those labels. They're one of that circular thing that you can't really understand. So they're from Sheffield, kind of an industrial, early industrial kind of sounding band. That's a cool track, I have to say. Now, from 2004, sort of, is Morrissey, First the Gang to Die. So, from You Are the Quarry, which came out in 2004, and then this was released as a single. I don't know if it was a 7-inch single or not, but it was a single track. But in 2006, 2 years later, they put out a 12-inch single for First of the Gang to Die. And it has, on side B, My Life is a succession of people saying goodbye, Teenage Dad on his estate, and a track called Mexico. This is an import from the UK on Attack Records. Right. So probably a hard one to find these days. I bought this record in Ottawa, of all places, if you can believe it. Why do I remember that? I don't know why I remember that. Here's a classic band that I absolutely adored and still do, Susie and the Banshees. This is Spellbound from 1981. Terrific band. It has Follow the Sun and Slap-Dash-Snap on it as well. And Susie's got one of those voices that is just fabulous. She can really sing. Love her voice, and the way she dressed and everything is really cool. So there we have Spellbound from 81, really cool. I have a vague memory of watching that video. I probably should look it up again. It's a great track. All right. And this is, I think this is in 1986. The Jesus and Mary Chain with Side Walking. So this has, they're from Scotland, by the way. So side 1 has the extended version of Side Walking. Side 2 has a 7-inch mix of Side Walking, and then we have Taste of Cindy, recorded live in Detroit, and April Skies, recorded live in Detroit. Fabulous band. I think they're really interesting. Someone once told me that the first record had one good track and a lot of razzle-dazzle, but I actually really like the the first album. I think it's really cool. Warner Brothers labels here. Fabulous. What's my favorite Jesus and Mary Chain song? Probably, no, I'm going to think about that. I was going to say, but I'm not sure. I'll think about that. Moving on. This is kind of a double, so there's actually 31 records here, because there's two 12 inches for the same track. So this is Shriekback. In my opinion, a really cool 80s new wave band with a lot of cool bass work. I thought they were really, really interesting. And this, of course, is Nemesis, which was a giant hit for them. In certain markets, it was played on a radio station I listened to. It was also frequently spun at a club I used to go to. This has Nemesis on side A and Suck on side B, a live version. I don't know if I love this album cover. I do like this part. We'll come back to that. And really cool. Everyone loved this song back in the day. I thought it was fantastic. These island labels. And I believe this band originated in London. Now, weirdly, I have a different version of that. Well, a different 12-inch single with... I guess I'll do it later. Here it is. Shriekback with a much better cover. This is the Arch Deviant mix of Nemesis from 1985. And so this has the Arch Deviant mix of Nemesis on side A. It has a version, the 7-inch version of Nemesis on side B, and again, Suck, the live version. And let me show you that label right there. So pretty cool, right? Love that band. They're still making music, by the way. Now to Dusseldorf for 1981 and Kraftwerk with The Model. And on the back it says The Model backed with Computer Love, but on the labels it's the other way around. The Model is the side B track, which is kind of strange, but whatever. And this is a band you don't really have to say anything about because everyone knows who they are. So I can get this out of here. This lovely yellow label there, 45 RPM. And if you noted, I don't know if you know that, but it says side 2, the model, side 1, Computer Love, even though the single is for the model and it says it's backed with Computer Love. That's weird, right? But obviously a fantastic track. And we go to 1991, 1990, Delight, Groove is in the Heart. A really band, I just love them out of New York City. They're really funky. She had a really, I can't remember her name, she had a really interesting presentation of herself. This track features Bootsy Collins and Q-Tip, which is really phenomenal. There's the back of it. The only downside to this may be the fact that there's so many versions. Like side A has 3 versions of Groove is in the Heart. We've got Meeting of the Minds, Peanut Butter, Radio Mix, Jelly Jam Beats. And side B is What is Love, 3 different mixes. So it takes a lot to get through it. Interesting label there. But yeah, a cool track. Let's be honest. Cool track. Now, a band I did not like when I first found out about them or first heard them, and that, surprisingly, is Prefab Sprout. Kind of a pop, new wave. I've heard them called Sophistopop. In fact, if you look them up in Discogs, it doesn't use the word Sophistopop. I don't think that's used at all in Discogs, but if you go to Wikipedia, they're called Sophistopop. I think Discogs has them as pop or synth pop or something. When this track hit, everyone I knew just loved When Love Breaks Down, and I just did not get it. But I've learned to like it. I appreciate it now, and I have acquired some other records from Prefab Sprout. So When Love Breaks Down, side A, the Yearning Loin. Side B has Diana, Donna Summer, and Cruel. This is from 80-something. This record's a bit dirty. 84. So there we go, side A. Side B, all written by Paddy McAloon. And I like them better now. The kids love Cars and Girls and what's that other one from? I can't remember. I should have looked it up. All right. A band I will probably end up talking about again in the future because they're Canadian and I really love them is Rational Youth out of Montreal. Their debut record is called Cold War Nightlife, a classic in synth pop, probably, some people might call it a masterpiece. I don't know, that word is overused, but certainly in Canada, I would say that their debut record was possibly the best synth pop record ever made. This is from that record. It's called City of Night, the dance mix, which is really cool. They have certain aspects of their sound, which is really icy, cold new wave synth, and then they have some that are more danceable. So this is kind of a danceable song, City of Night. And then on the back, on the B side, we have City Phosphore, which is the French version of the same track, which they actually sing in French, and then an instrumental called Power Zone. I just think they were phenomenal. I did see them in concert after their second record, which is called Heredity. Unfortunately, by then, really only one guy was left in the band. He replaced everyone else. His writing partner, I think he became a professor and retired from music and was teaching, I think. But he came back from time to time over the years. So they have reformed and done things. But the first record was absolutely fantastic. And it has this great label. They're probably, oddly though, the second record isn't as good, but it probably has their most famous track, which is called Saturdays in Silesia. Here's the label. The Saturdays in Silesia label is red, but it has the same Yule thing. And then they're still sort of making music. The one dude, I can't remember his name, tours with his wife or has been touring with his wife, and they more or less a duo with some other musicians, I think. But always loved this band. I thought they were very innovative and very cool. All right. So up to 1990, this is Eric B. and Rakim, or Rakim, whatever you prefer. This is In the Ghetto, not the Elvis Presley track, by the way. So they're a socially conscious hip-hop duo from New York City. So this has the extended mix of In the Ghetto and the drums and Rakim version of In the Ghetto. Of all the classic period hip-hop bands, I do like the flow that these guys have. I just think their rapping is really good. Not everyone likes hip-hop. I do have some in my collection. I think this is a really good track. has something to, there's a message there. This is side 1 right here. So cool track, cool video. And now we're moving to 1991, I believe. This is Front 242, Rhythm of Time. They're a Belgian EBM band, electronic body music. So this has 3 versions of Rhythm of Time. So we've got the 12-inch mix, the anti-G mix, and the Victor the Cleaner mix, which is 7 minutes and 46 seconds. Great. Really cool band. I think they just stopped touring now. They were touring up until, I think, last year or something, and they just stopped. But pretty cool band, which I quite like. In fact, I think I just showed a Front 242 record in a recent Finds video. But, okay, 1991, the KLF, Justified and Ancient. So there are 4 versions of Justified and Ancient on this thing, so it's hard to listen to all at once. But, and I guess the most notable thing about this recording is that side B is a version that features Tammy Wynette, who's noted here as being the first lady of country. Now, it's well known that I don't like country music. My exceptions are Johnny Cash, really, and I do like the guitar playing of Glenn Campbell, but I will accept this here because it kind of works with the track. There's one of the labels. There's the other one. So, yeah, pretty cool, I have to say. Her voice kind of really works with the song. Kind of unexpected in a way, but it works. I guess we're sticking in the 90s here. This is also 1991. This is Pete Wiley with Sinful. And you might be thinking, well, didn't that song come out in 1987? Yes, or 86, 87, I guess. Yes, it did. But this is Pete Wiley with The Farm. And, of course, he was originally in the outfit called Wah, which I've mentioned before. And but so a few years had passed, and he did this remix, I guess. I don't know if they re-recorded or remixed it with The Farm. It's the Scary Jiggin' with Dr. Love length mix, if you can believe that. This is an infectious song. It was played everywhere in the late 80s, and I guess they just wanted to bring it back. So, a pretty cool song. And then it kind of just faded away. I don't hear it anymore. I don't know. Now, one of my favorite bands from 1990. This is the Sisters of Mercy with a track called More. A really epic, almost anthemic, glorious song from the Sisters of Mercy. They're from Leeds. It's kind of a magisterial song, as are many of the lengthy Sisters of Mercy tracks. There's some really fabulous background singing in this track as well. It's just a simply great song that never gets old. I could listen to this forever, I think. Just the other day, I played the Vision Thing album because my daughter quite likes it, so we played that. And from 1987, is that right? 1988, the Sugar Cubes with Cold Sweat, featuring a younger version of Bjork. And man, her voice epic on this track. Like, I know she has a good voice, but it just shines through. Her voice is quite the instrument. Yeah, really fantastic song. We have Side B has Birthday and Delicious Demon. The LP version. Side A has Cold Sweat, the Meat Mix and Cold Sweat. Instrumental version, both the same length. I actually think this band got quite a lot of notoriety, but I think they were a little underrated. I don't know. I think they're really good, and it's kind of disappointing that. Well, I guess she wanted to go her own way, but I think they should have been bigger. It's a really interesting song, to be sure. Back to 1979, we have Gary Newman with Complex. Whenever I hear this track, I think it's an unlikely track to be featured on The Pleasure Principle because of the violin and the viola in it. It's very peaceful, and the violin is very well done. It's very tasteful, but surprising considering the lack of guitars and the cold synth of that record, but really great track. Side B is Bombers, also fantastic, and Me, I Disconnect From You on this nice red Beggar's Banquet label. So I should have said Me, I Disconnect From You and Bombers are live versions, whereas Complex is the studio version. Right, 1985, I think. 85, yes. Stan Ridgway, originally from Wall of Voodoo, with this curious 12-inch single, which has 3 tracks: The Big Heat, Drive, She Said, and Salesman, all taken from the LP The Big Heat, which I think is terrific. That album is fire from start to finish. The only track I don't like is Camouflage. It's a track I used to like and then quickly tired of because I think it's kind of juvenile, but these tracks are fantastic. He presents his lyrics in a sort of film noir way. It's like you're reading a Dashiell Hammett novel, it condensed, really interesting. He's got a story to tell, as he usually does in most of his songs, and these 3 fit perfectly in that style. I never followed the Wall of Voodoo after Stan left, so I don't know if they're any good or not, but anyway, this is side B and The Big Heat on this side. Terrific album. So that's Stan. I'm not looking forward to putting all these records back on the shelf. Here's an odd one. This is David Bowie. It's credited as Alabama Song, I believe. Yes, but it has Amsterdam and Space Oddity. So Alabama Song written by Bertolt Brecht. Amsterdam written by, I'm going to forget. It'll come to me in a minute. And then Space Oddity, Jacques Brel. And then, so 3 tracks. It's a weird combo when you think about it. One of his earliest famous, well-known songs, Space Oddity, from way back in the day. This came out in 1982, strangely. And these 2 cover versions, which, to be honest, I think are fairly well done. Alabama Song's been covered by a lot of people, including, I think, The Doors. And so really strange choices by him, but it really does work. That's Space Oddity on this side, and the other 2 here, just on black vinyl from 1982. And, I'm a Bowie fan, so obviously I have this. Pretty cool. Now, there is a band you might know called Death Cult, which is a precursor to The Cult. This is a 12-inch single with 2 versions of God's Zoo, which was an early single. And this followed another Ian Astbury band called Southern Death Cult. Then we have the Death Cult here, morphing into The Cult or something like that. So God's Zoo on side A, God's Zoo these times on side 2. From 1983, and I thought they were pretty good. It has kind of a rawer sound than The Cult. Maybe if that's true, I'm not sure. Maybe that's not being accurate, but anyway, it's pretty interesting 12-inch single. You might know what this is. This is Laurie Anderson's "Oh Superman" backed with "Walk the Dog." And this is, for me, like a triumph. It's a really interesting track. I still remember the first time I heard it. I was at home some Saturday evening watching some music show, and they played the video for this, which I thought was really intriguing. It is a long song. I know there might be a shorter version of it. This is a pretty long song, and it's mesmerizing. I find it mesmerizing. The repetitive use of certain sounds in the song is really mesmerizing. At that point, probably the most bizarre track I had ever heard. This is 1981 or 82, I think. 81. Really strange song. At the same time, I think it was ahead of its time, if that makes sense. It doesn't sound like it was released in 1981. It sounds like it came from the future, if that makes any sense. Really interesting. I always quite liked it. One of my favorite 12-inch singles of all time. It's kind of a haunting song in a way, and it's also fairly sad. So we have Walk the Dog on this side, Oh Superman on this side. And of course, she's a well-known kind of performance artist in a way, or performance music, art music. It's strange. I wouldn't put her as new wave, although this may have qualified back then, but I think she's not really a new wave artist. Really intriguing song, though. It was also a surprise mainstream hit. It hit the charts in England, I think, all the way up to number 2, I think. Crazy song. So let's end number 30. We're going all the way to 2006 with a 12-inch single from Fatboy Slim called Champion Sound. This has 4 versions of that track. It's a fun, not very long track, the single mix anyway, and it's a cool video. Just a fun track. That's all I can say. Norman Cook used to be in the House Martins, and then he became the head of this outfit, which is really him, I guess. And here we have, I don't know which is, this is side A. Champion Sound from 2006. So there you go, a long video of 31 12-inch singles. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.